Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Persons under 18 will not be admitted.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. You're watching Still Toking with. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here, and we have an awesome show scheduled for you as always. And with that, Benjamin, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm shocked. 2 weeks in a row, you didn't push the wrong button.
You gotta friggin' jinx it.
Oh, see, and then you go back to me, and my camera does that.
Yeah, now it's your turn to be the fuck up.
Well, yeah. Fuck you. I quit. I'm going home. I quit. No, man, I'm psyched. We always have great shows, and tonight's no different. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and babble, but I am going to say this. 420 this week, folks. So you know what that means. Jeff and I are going to be in Berwick, Maine tomorrow from 9 to 3 doing a signing at Trican Alternatives. And then we're off to Hadley, Mass to do the Grass is Greener gathering event. So if you got nothing to do, that's where we're going to be. You should be there too. Anyway, yeah, on with the show.
420, is that some special number?
It's that thing that has to do with that green stuff, that stuff in, those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, save us.
It's kind of like 7-Eleven, right? No, nothing like 7-Eleven.
No, you can't get a Slurpee on 420.
Well, I can if I want to.
Well,
maybe. Kind of Slurpee,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's where we're going to be. I'm looking forward to chatting with this gentleman tonight. And so let's just bring him in. Let's welcome Rick McCallum. Not the Star Wars dude.
That's me, not the Star Wars dude. That's my claim to fame. I am not the Star Wars guy.
Much more talented, in my opinion.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Jeff, you need to get out more.
Well, I
My
mean,
wife tells me that all the time so she can lock the doors.
But by the way, just a point to make, if you do go with the 420, eventually you're going to want that Slurpee.
that is true.
That is true.
And then you get brain freeze and wish you didn't drink the Slurpee so fast because you had cotton mouth.
Well,
So-
my age, if I stand up too quick, I get brain freeze. So,
But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like Jeff said, a lot more interesting than the other guy. I mean, actor, author, stunt coordinator, tons of friggin' movies that you've been involved in one way or another. So we've got a lot to cover tonight, I think.
You forgot Ghost Hunter.
I wasn't going to go there yet. Yep.
get him, Leo.
Thanks, Rick.
And paranormal investigator with somebody else that's famous. Yeah, we're going to get into all that. So
Where do you want to start?
go ahead. Anybody, fire. Usually somebody
Okay,
jumps right
well-
on my shit right away. So, all right, fine. I'm going to start. As a stuntman, I read that you were in the Devil Rejects doubling for Captain Spalding. How friggin' cool is that?
That is pretty cool. I've actually worked on a couple movies with Sid Haig. And Sid was actually one of the really coolest guys you'd ever meet. Matter of fact, I took like 4 hours in makeup to get to look like Sid, for the one scene I was doing. And if you happen to see Devil's Rejects, they have the behind the scenes stuff. And I'm standing off there and he walks out and he stops and he looks at me and he goes, dude, somebody fucked you up. So Sid was pretty cool. I also did, the Hatchet series. Sid was in a few of those.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. I got killed in Hatchet 2 in a gruesome way. But I was actually
I remember
in all
that
four.
scene.
Yeah, actually, I was in all four of them, doubling Kane in some places and, things like that. So it's
Right.
pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Sid was really cool.
So were you in the Victor Crowley one too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually, if you saw the Victor Crowley scene, there's a scene where Victor's off in the distance and he's looking around. He's kind of pissed off. And the one girl's hiding by the boat. Right. And instantly they look up here and you see him back there and she looks up and he's standing in front of him. Right. Which is about a 40-yard difference. And I was the Victor Crowley in the back. Kane was the Victor Crowley in the front. All I did was hide. I'm standing back there. Boom. Down I go so you can't see me. And Kane pops up and it looks like he actually moved that fast.
That's really
Wow. Okay.
I mean,
That's I didn't think anybody could move that fast,
yeah.
especially in a horror movie.
It depends on who's chasing you.
Right? Come on, be realistic, Jeff. I mean, the blonde girl always runs really, really, really fast and then trips over air.
And never wants to get up.
No, can't get up. She got to crawl.
Yeah, but you know what? The best feminist movie of all time was the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Because that girl was not going to die easy. I mean, she ran into a tree, knocked herself out, jumped out the third floor window. I mean, that girl was badass.
Right?
Well, she wasn't real part of that.
I'll tell you who else was badass is Danielle Harris, who was
Yes.
in the last three of the Hatchet movies. And she was also in, she played the clown in, what is the name of that movie? Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe it was. It was Halloween.
That was Halloween, yeah.
She was trying to kill Michael Myers.
Yep.
And she's just, that girl's fearless. I mean, she's like about the size of a beer can. And I mean, she'll take on a grizzly bear,
Wow. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
she wanted to do every single stunt we had. And, she pretty much did most of them. Just one, it was too dangerous for her to do. And I knew she could have pulled it off, but you don't really want to try going without the lead actress the rest of the movie. That's just a bad idea.
Yeah, that would be a bad hit.
That's like me. If I'm doubling Kane, I fall down and I get hit by a meteorite. They just find another guy that's my size and put me in the suit. But if you do it to Kane, the movie's over.
Right.
So.
Right.
I hate to think that's defensible, but that's just the way it is.
So speaking of stunts in danger within stunts, what are some of the most dangerous stunts that you actually had to perform?
Well, there was one I did in a movie called Dark Wolf, and Kane and I played the Dark Wolf. I played the wolf version. He played the human version. And there's a scene where the Dark Wolf runs and jumps on the hood of a car, and 4 of the actors are in the car, and the car takes off going backwards. Now it's going 20, maybe faster, and then it does a reverse spin, like Crack the Whip when you were on skates and stuff, and it just launched me into 2 rows next to each other and 2 rows high of 55-gallon steel drums. Oh. And I went flying off the back of that car head first into those drums. And man, I can't even describe it. When I went flying in there, all the barrels started flying around like bowling pins. And these things are really heavy. They're 55-gallon steel drums. And they're whacking me from every different direction. And when you're doing falls, you have to know where the ground is. And
that helps.
They call it air awareness. You really need to know where the ground is. But every time I would start to know where I was, something would come over and boom, I go this way. And then something would hit me from behind, I'd go this way. And it'd come up and hit me in the head, and boom, I go backwards. I mean, I'm like, I had no clue where I was. But boy, that thing just beat the hell out of me.
Why didn't they use rubber barrels?
Because they have things called budgets.
Yeah, Jeff, you know all about budgets, Jeff. How many concussions did you get in filming?
I know.
It's so cute. You can always tell the real dangerous stunts when the cast and crew come out to watch. That's the one that they're expecting you, to lose, an eyebrow or something. But this one girl, Andrea Bogart, who was one of the stars, she was a delightful girl. She comes up to me and she knows that I'm going to be jumping on the car and it's going to throw me into the barrels and stuff. And she comes up and she goes, "Are you going to get hurt?" And I went, "Yeah." She goes like this. She goes, "How bad?" And I turned around and looked at her and I said, "I'll let you know in a minute." And I jumped up on the car and off we went.
Have you ever been seriously injured?
That one knocked me pretty senseless. And you've met me already today. I'm pretty close to senseless. It's not, you don't take too much of a hit to get me there. But I had blood coming out of my ear. Everybody thought I had a brain injury. And I kept telling them, I said, the edge of the barrel, one of the barrel edges flew up and went bam, it hit me in the ear. So I just split open the inside of my ear. But one of my best friends was the director. Matter of fact, I had lunch with him today, Richard Friedman. And I'm laying on my back, right? And they're coming over and they're taking off the wolf head. And I'm holding real still. And Richard runs up and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, I'm up to my waist. I'm good so far." Right? And they take the thing off and they see the blood. They're all freaking out. I kept saying, it's a cut in my ear. There's not, nothing wrong. And Richard looks down and he goes, "Is there anything I can do?" And I if you know the movie vernacular, I just looked up, I said, "Yeah, just say those 3 little words I want to hear." And he looks at me and he goes, "What 3 little words?" And I went, "Perfect, moving on." Right? And he turns around, looks at the crowd, and he goes, "Perfect, moving on." So,
that's a wrap.
I didn't want to do that again, but I would have if I had to, but I didn't want to. The other one, these things are called slobber knockers in the stunt business because it knocks the slobber out of you.
Okay.
And I did a movie called Project Metal Beast where I was doubling Barry Bostwick. And this giant steel werewolf hits Barry and just sends him flying through the air. And we were at this big water filtration plant, the industrial strength, the huge roll down metal doors. And Kane's going, "Well, what are we going to do? I don't want to just have you go fly in through the air and land in the boxes." That's pretty much everybody does when you get hit. You land in empty boxes and knock them over. And I said, "I got an idea." And he went off with the director. And I went up there and I ran and jumped and hit my shoulder on this big door, and it kicked me back. And I thought, cool, if I hit it hard enough, it'll kick me back. I can land on my side and everything will be great. Right? So I went up to Kane. I said, okay, I got an idea. I'm going to put the mini tramp right here, about 12 feet from the wall. I said, I'm going to do a full sprint, go upside down backwards, and I'm going to hit that wall and land down there. And he goes, what are you going to land in? I said, I'm going to land on the concrete. And the director's looking at me, and Kane's looking at me, and he goes, you're kidding, right? And I went, right? So there were two young guys that were there talking to Kane off on the side, right? And they yell action. I come doing a full sprint. I hit this thing. I go flying. I hit exactly where I was looking. And, here's the door. And I was expecting it to go and kick me back. I hit it so hard it went and stopped. It didn't come back, right? And I dropped straight up and down on my head on the concrete.
Oh, man.
And I knew that I was facing the camera, and you don't want that because I'm obviously not Barry Bostwick, right? So as soon as I landed, I did this, and I spun while I was still on my head, and then spun away from it. And Kane still says, he goes, "There's never been a harder hit in the history of stunts than that one right there." And after I got up, they came up and said, "You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And I was a little dazed. You land on your head on concrete, that kind of hurts. But I looked over and I saw two young guys, and they're walking away like they're in the Olympics and speed walking. And I said, "Kane, who are those two guys?" And he goes, "Those were two guys that wanted to be stuntmen." He actually goes, "They don't want to anymore." So, yeah, that was another one.
Jeff can attest to that when you land on the concrete. Like I said, with budgets, because we did a couple of TV series films that we had done. And Jeff missed his A mark and took a steel shelf to the side of the head that drove him into the concrete.
Well, that explains a lot, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still trying to understand things.
Yeah, I'm like, but you know what? It comes in with a perfect excuse. People tell me, they go, "I don't understand this," and say, "Well, I have had several significant head injuries,
Right. I was going to just ask, how many concussions have you had?
I've had a few.
Yeah.
I mean, Metal Beast got me. I know that for sure. Not so much the one with the cars. That just beat me up all over the place. When I was flipping over the last time, there was a barrel sitting there like it normally would. And I came down on my lower back on the far side of the edge, went bam, and went flying over. And I had a bruise about that big on my back.
Oh, man.
And I had a back pad on it, just hitting the exact spot that it wasn't covered. It was like, always happens. You can wear a suit of armor and there'll be a little pinhole, and pow! That's where we get
Jay Moores, my workman's comp hurts.
It's unbelievable.
That's it's really cool, but it's kind of a little insane.
Well, it's really fun to be on the set until it's time for you to, do the fall.
Right.
I mean, I did another show where I went backwards down 2.5 flights of stairs. That was interesting. So yeah, you get to do a lot of interesting things when you do stunts.
Now, what's the most intricate and difficult stunt you've had to do?
I would say that was the thing that Kane and I did in a movie called Old 37. And do you guys remember the movie Footloose?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember when the girl is standing between the two cars?
Vaguely.
The cars are driving and she's standing on the...
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Well, they did that on a straightaway, a closed straightaway. And they had actually built things for her feet to fit on. Well, this was another low-budget extravaganza, and they wanted her standing on the roofs of the cars, right, as we were driving, and that didn't work out because they brought one that was a convertible, so she ended up standing, down below. But, we harnessed her up, made sure everything was fine, right? And it got to the point, the one car that Kane was driving, I was driving a Mustang, Kane was driving a Challenger, an old one. It would die if you didn't keep it going pretty fast. I mean, you had to have it at least 42 miles an hour for the last several shots. And we're going around corners in this forest preserve with this stunt girl standing out there going 42 miles an hour. And we probably did 12, 15 takes because she played two different characters and they always do the other coverages. You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
never touched cars once. The whole time we were going around corners with the girl on there and everything else. I mean, it was that one I'm pretty proud of.
Yeah.
And Kane actually says in one of his books, Kane's got the documentaries out, to hell and back.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about that stunt too, saying, he says, that's hard to believe that you could go 42 miles an hour around the corners. Wasn't like 90-degree corners, they're just swooping curves, but still not to bump the cars a single time was pretty cool.
Or lose.
How far apart were they?
We were probably only maybe 15 to 18 inches.
A foot and a half. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, because the girls.
Yeah. Otherwise, she'd split, right?
Yeah, I heard somebody ask me one time. They said, "Well, why didn't you? You only harnessed her to Kane's car, right? Why didn't you harness to your car too?" I said, "Really?"
Yeah. Really?
They said, "Yeah," and I said, "You do realize if something happens and we had to abort for something, it would rip her in half?" And they were like, "Oh yeah." It was like, that's why they hire us. Okay, thank you very much.
Think of that one, right?
Yeah, it would have been a bad day for that stunt woman.
Oh, that girl, her name was Hannah Scott, and she's from New York, and that girl has balls of steel, I'll tell you. I'd hire her on anything I had.
Nice. Wow.
I didn't want to get up there and stand out on the outside of the car at 42 miles an hour.
True that.
So what was one of your favorite movies or / scenes that you actually did?
Well, I think that my favorite scene was Hatchet 2.
Okay.
And there's a scene in there. I play a character called Silent John because I never say a word. And I think that Adam Green, the director, and Kane teamed up just to shut me up for a while, right? But Colton Dunn, who was he was also on Supermarket TV show. He's the guy in the wheelchair. Colton was the comic element of the show, and I was kind of like, there were two actual real hunters, R.A. Mihailoff, who played Leatherface, and myself, and everybody else was throw-ins trying to get a bounty to kill Victor Crowley, right? And we're out in the swamp, and all of a sudden you hear, arr, arr, arr. And I turn around and I look at the camera, and I never say anything, but I look at the camera. I'm supposed to be looking at Colton, and I go, and I turn my head, right? And you could tell what I'm saying on the screen, right? And here comes Kane with an 8-foot chainsaw, the blade. He specifically made this for the movie. And here he comes with it, and I'm shooting it with the shotgun, and you can see boom, boom, him getting hit. And Colton is shooting the trees and the ground, and he's hiding behind me like this. And just as Kane comes out, the shotgun jams, and I'm trying to get it open. He takes this shotgun, or the saw blade, sticks it between my legs. Colton is hiding behind me, so it goes between his legs, and he goes, "Ugh," and he lifts us up off the ground, and he saws both of us in half, and we go. So yeah, that was pretty interesting, that shot.
Wow.
That's great.
I told Colton before we did it, I said, "Colton, make sure you wear a cup." And he goes, "Well, he goes like this. He goes, "Well, Kane, I said, "Wear a cup," right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was the assistant coordinator. And the night before, I said, "You know what? Just in case." And I went and I bought another cup and stuff. And I brought it and I gave it to him. And after we were done, he comes up to me, hugs me, goes, "Thank you, man." I told him, I said, I've been trying to tell you, Kane is like Tina Turner. He doesn't do anything nice and easy. You better be prepared when Kane's coming after you.
Yep, he had to get that up thrust and make it look real.
Oh, yeah. Boom. Ooh. Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Well, even when you meet him at cons, he's pretty rough. It's like an honor to get like slapped by Kane or something,
Well, he used to choke people all the time.
Yeah.
And he stopped doing that because people aren't as sturdy as they used to be, I guess. When you do that and you turn around and all you have is the guy's head and the rest of him is gone, might be time to stop doing that.
Right.
I know when we're on Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans was talking to Kane. They're sitting next to each other. And he says, after all that killing and stuff, aren't you afraid that, some of that might carry over? And Kane looks and he goes, yeah, sometimes I feel it building up. I just feel like I'm going to snap. And he jumps over and he grabs him and he puts him in a chokehold. And he's going, and Zach's just going, right, Kane, oh, sorry. Puts him back over there. Kane's been my best friend for 42 years, I think. So,
right. Yeah,
I will tell you a funny story. They have a place called Scarefest. Oh, boy. There we go.
Hello, goodbye.
It's probably that one girl I've always wanted to call. But anyway, I was at Scarefest and Kane had a booth, and then R.A., who played Leatherface, and he's also one of the members of Hollywood Ghost Hunters, and then me. And they started Kane, and they go to R.A., and they come down to me, and the one guy goes, oh, you're with the Hollywood Ghost Hunters? I said, yeah. And he goes, you know Kane? I said, well, yeah. He's in my group, yes. Right? And he goes, really? How long have you known him? And this has been years ago. I said, oh, 30 years. And he goes, you're kidding. And I've got a banner up that's got like 25 movies in it, right? Up behind me. And the guy goes like this. He goes, have you ever been in a movie? And I said, well, if you add up all the stuff, over 75. And he looks at me like, wow. He's like this. He goes, have you ever been in a movie with Kane? And I went, last time we checked, it's about 30. And he goes, oh, can I have your autograph? And I was like, oh, okay, now that you qualified me, sure, why not?
Right.
Felt like I was there for a home loan, for God's sake.
So
You're the who's this dude?
Right. You've been in movies with Kane?
Yeah, it's funny because people go like this. They said, well, how come we don't recognize you? I said, because I play monsters. I double people. You're not supposed to notice me, So actually, I played like 5 characters in one movie. Kane always calls it my demo reel. I just leave, come back as a different monster, kill some people, and off I go.
Right.
Which movie was that?
That was called Fallen Angels.
Okay.
And actually, there's one of the most gruesome scenes in the history of movies. At least people told me that. When we had the premiere down in Hollywood at Grauman's Chinese Theater, we were down there, and there's a scene where I knocked this one guy over. I'm the black shape. There's another actor doing it, but they wanted me to do this stunt because there was a knife involved. And I bust the door down, smash the guy to the ground, jump on him, and I've got him pinned underneath me, and I'm taking the knife, and I'm popping his teeth out, going, and they're just popping up into the air, and you see me grinding in there, and going, and you could just turn. I turned around, and I was looking at the people in the movie, and they're all going, oh. I really wanted to watch. So that was pretty gruesome, but it was pretty cool.
So, in case you folks didn't know, Rick also does in-home dentistry.
Yes,
Just
freelance. Freelance out on the street. Doesn't matter where it's at.
Right. Well, the problem is it's all or nothing.
Yeah, I'm only good at removal.
Well, yeah. I didn't say we're going to put anything back.
Yeah. But yeah, that one is it's actually, if you watch it, it's disgusting to watch, but it's really cool. And I kill him, and I just stand up and walk away. No sound, just bye.
Sounds like my kind of movie.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Now
that was actually at Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio. Another really haunted place.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was gonna bring that up because isn't that where you and Kane decided to take on this adventure with Hollywood Ghost Hunters?
Yeah, well, I've been wanting to have a ghost hunting group for a long time because I've been doing this since I was 13.
Right.
And when we were there at Mansfield, we had the run of the place, right? And we were way back in the far cell blocks, as far back as you could go. And it's probably 1 or 2 in the morning. Everybody was gone. And we start walking back, and I see a shadow moving. And Kane saw it too, right? And the fact that we both reacted to it, that's, we just went, yeah, this is, and Kane wanted to chase after it. And I was so used to being with people ghost hunting, and they would ghost hunt like this, right? And a noise would come and they'd go, whoop, 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 whoop. Didn't want that. I wanted somebody that would go forward. And then Kane was the ideal choice for that.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
All right.
So,
Now,
when you were a little kid, right? I mean, with this ghost hunting thing, and I've talked to some other people. Did you have an invisible friend when you were little?
yeah, and you know what? I actually have a theory about that. I think all kids have an invisible friend, and I don't think they're invisible, and I think they're probably spirits. And I think they are probably spirits of somebody that was close to them or is from the family lineage that actually is giving them a little more of, watching out for them. So, and it's funny because almost everybody I know had an invisible friend. And I did.
I agree.
I used to blame everything on him, though. So I don't know why he still hung around with me.
Well, that's why I had one, so I could blame him.
Johnny
I
did
didn't do it. Yep.
Yeah, it was Johnny.
Like, he's standing right there. Can't you see him?
Johnny did it. Yeah, but I do believe that that's actually really a spirit that's connected to him somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what in your definition, is there a difference, and if so, what is it between a spirit and a ghost?
I'm glad you asked that question because almost nobody ever asked me that, but there is a real difference. A spirit is someone who has crossed over and comes back, like your grandmother comes to see you, or your father comes to see you. A ghost is someone who's still here and hasn't crossed over yet.
Okay, hasn't had that final laid to rest kind of a thing.
Right. Well,
Okay.
they're not necessarily laid to rest. Some of them just don't want to go. It depends on what religion you're thinking about. There's some religions say that unless you measure up, you ain't getting in. So there are some ghosts that are probably afraid to go take the test, because if you fail that one, the consequences are kind of big. So
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have many options after that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there's things, but most of it is spirits ghosts just don't know they're dead. They died and they're still in the same place. They're walking around and, they're confused just like anybody else is through most of their life. So I usually just go to make friends with them right off the bat. People are actually pretty amazed. If you read the forwards of my book from like Jay Bloomkey was one of the people who started Ghost Hunters, Ghost Mine. He's very big in the paranormal field. And he'll just say, he goes, things come to this guy, right? It's always been that way. I walk into a room. I remember we had done a thing at the LAPD Museum, and the day before, Kristen Luman from Ghost Mine, Brandon Alves from Ghost Hunters, and Susan Slaughter from Paranormal Witness had been ghost hunting for 3 days, and I came in on the fourth day. And I brought my K2 meter out, which is the one with the 5 lights. Mm-hmm. And I get really good reactions with that. I mean, people laugh at me because I get so many reactions with it. But I let them use my equipment because Susan Slaughter's had been in a storage shed and most of her stuff melted because it got so hot. So they were using my equipment. When I got there, I got my K2 meter and I went out and I started walking into this one place. And Brandon Alves says to me, he goes, "Hey, Rick, we used that for 2 days." He said, "Didn't go off a single time." And I just looked at him, I said, "Really? Hey, Walter, are you here?" Boom, 5 lights. And they went, "Holy shit." Right? And I said, can't help it. I know Walter. I've been there a lot of times. By the way, let me give everybody out there a little ghost hunting tip that's in my second book. If you really want to find spirits, to connect with them, pretend that you just found a lost puppy in your backyard. Treat them the same way. Talk nicely, stand still, let them come to you. And you'll get more stuff than you can imagine.
Wow. In the book,
so true ghost hunting is not hunting; it's allowing them to come to you.
Yeah, you can't hunt something that you can't see, right? And if it doesn't want you to see them, you're not going to see them, right? You have to make it so they want to come to you, so they want to interact. See, I have a feeling that they go to like energy. So if you're like a nice, outgoing person, they'll come to you. If you're kind of, the guys that like to scream and yell and threaten, they just go, "Yeah, we're here, right here. Play with that for a while." Right. Matter of fact, I don't let anybody do that when they're on a ghost hunt where I'm at. And they'll say, why not? I said, how would you like it if I came to your house and started calling you a son of a bitch and a weakling and a coward? Well, I wouldn't like that. I said, so you're trying to see an unseen entity to come to you because you're talking to him like that? Do you really think that's going to work? They're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. So,
right. So, what's well, before we get into that, Leo, where can they find out about our amazing guest, the 2 books that he already has out, which we'll let him name in a minute, but do your thing.
Yeah, if you check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, you can find all the information about our amazing guest right there. There we go.
With clickable links.
Yeah.
With clickable links.
Yeah. So what you mentioned the K2? Are there any other pieces of equipment that you like to work with?
Video, voice recorder.
Okay.
I've been lucky enough to have a friend named Mikey Thompson that I've been ghost hunting with, and a girl named Cheryl Plum, and they're both very good audio people. The difference with Mikey, he has a DR60 recorder that's very easy to go back and forth and picks up a lot of stuff. It's the one, if you try and buy one, when it came out, it's a Panasonic, when you could buy it for $35. Now it's become kind of the must-have, and you can pick them up, for $3,000 now.
Oh, wow.
Or more. But he has one of those, and we get quite a bit of really good stuff off of that. I mean, we've got one place when we were in Scotland ghost hunting, he asked in this courtroom, he goes, so why were you in here? And it comes back as clear as a bell. It goes, murder. I mean, it's, that's pretty impressive when you get just straight out answers as clear as a bell. And we get quite a bit of it together.
So you mostly how do I say, ghost hunt in buildings?
Well, yeah, going outside is really hard to do, but I do go to Scotland for a month every year. And I do go out into the graveyards, which I don't call them. I just go out there and I walk through them. And if the K2 starts up, then I'll try and have a conversation, right? So outside, yeah, you can get stuff outside. But I go through a lot of empty castles in the middle of the night. So, and getting stuff in there when there's absolutely nobody else within miles is really cool. You get voices and stuff. So, of course, you also get pneumonia from standing around cold castles. But hey, it's part of the job.
It sounds to me like it's just one hell of a good time.
Yeah, it is. It is. Makes your brain work. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Well, I was curious about that because I live 2 miles, I think, from what is supposedly one of the most haunted wooded areas in the United States. That's the Bridgewater Triangle.
Okay.
Never heard of that one, huh?
I haven't heard of it, no.
Yeah, it's the Bridgewater Triangle. There's apparently all kinds of paranormal activity in there. I personally have never gone in there because I just don't.
It's just really not one of your things.
No. I'm looking for mini Sasquatch, not ghosts.
Yeah.
What state is it in?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Got a lot of Massachusetts history when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah. See, Robert knows about it. Yeah.
So, but like you said, you've been to Scotland and you've been to a lot of fascinating areas. What were some of the, I don't want to call them the scariest, but the most active places that you've been that kind of made you step back and go, whoa?
Well, the first one would be Bolton Priory in Yorkshire, England. That place not only has amazing energy, it's dark energy. Actually saw a guy get knocked completely out to where we had to revive him and make sure he was going to be okay. People kept seeing black shadows, all over the place. I always wear black, it's supposed to be slimming, but mine didn't get the message. But I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. I'm not a little guy, right? But I was with this one girl, Carol Ann Hospital, and she had walked into another part of the castle when I was outside on the grounds, with the K2 meter getting 5 light responses to everything. And I see her walking through the archway from near where the chapel was, and she's walking out. She's talking, and then she gets near me and she just goes. I said, "What's the matter?" She goes, "How long have you been out here?" I said, 15 minutes or so. And she goes, "I just followed you from in there. I was right behind you. I saw this big black shape. I thought it was you. I've been talking to you for the last 5 minutes." I said, "No, you haven't. I've been right here."
Yeah,
So,
it wasn't me.
there was another thing about that. They told me I was with a group called Anubis Paranormal. I was their guest, and Premier Paranormal. Both of us, guests of both of them. Supposedly, there is the gate. If the entities in there don't want you to leave, you can't leave. They'll stop you from going out. And Mandy, who is the leader of Anubis, had a necklace that was blessed by the Vatican, and she's the first one going out, and then Carol Ann is second, and I'm third. Well, she gets up and she starts walking through that. I just happen to be looking there, and I see her chain go and leave like a burn mark on her neck. Right? She goes, "Oh!" Right? I said, "I saw that." Right? And she goes, "Yeah." She says, and then it feels really hard for me to get through here. I said, "Just muscle up. You can do it." So she does. She gets through, and then Carol Ann, she says, "It doesn't want to let me leave." I said, You can do it. Right? So she muscles up. She gets through it. I walk up there and I don't feel a thing. It's like, "Get out. We don't want you don't have to stay. Keep moving, and no traffic. Go that way." But the one guy who got knocked out, I mean, we had to revive him. I mean, we actually put him on the ground. We put, the equipment cases under his feet. I was trying, because I used to do, water safety and lifeguard and all that stuff. I do that on movies too. So I was, making sure that he was going to come around, and finally he did after about 10 minutes. And the weirdest thing was, me and this guy who was a bouncer, a guy named Peter, we picked him up under the arms, and we were put him in the cars because it was cold out when we were there. And he'd been shivering. I couldn't tell if he was shivering because he was cold. I'd actually taken my coat off and put it over him. And the other people that were there were taking their coats off and covering to keep him warm. So, I mean, it was pretty cool that they all did that. But he finally came back sort of awake, still groggy. So we walked him a couple 100 yards over to the fence. And I was really interested to see what was going to happen because I know the story of the fence now because I'd already seen that stuff earlier. And he's got his head down and, his arms up, and we're dragging him pretty much, right? And he gets about 15 feet from the fence and he goes, "Ugh!" And he just jerks back and tries to pull loose. And Peter's a big dude. He's a bouncer, right? So we both have him under the arms, and he's trying to push back. He doesn't want to go through the gate. So I said, "Peter," he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Lift him up." So we just went, lifted him off the ground, carted him through the gate, and opened up the back of the truck and threw him in. Right? He goes flying in. We slam the door. We say, "Go get him coffee or hot chocolate or something. Warm this guy up. Get him out of here." So that was a very frightening place. You could feel the energy everywhere you were. It was negative as could be. Balgony Castle has a lot of energy in it, which is a place I love. I've been there many, many times. I was there courtesy of the Dark Zone people, and they filmed a lot of this one hunt that we had there. And the chapel thing, if you ever go on the Dark Zone app, it's free. You can look at the chapel. You can see the whole hunt, but the chapel thing is amazing what happens in there. So it's a pretty good thing to see.
Now, do you believe that most spirits or ghosts are good in nature, or do you also think that there's some really bad, nasty ones out there?
There's both. If I go on the street, how many people I got to find that are just total jerk offs, and other ones that are just really, really nice? That's what you're going to find.
So just like people, okay.
Yeah, that's what they were people. Right? So they're not personalities don't really change.
Right.
That's why if you're nice, the nice ones will come out, and generally the mean ones will just shun you because they don't want to deal with a nice person. So.
Okay.
So it's
when I talk about this kind of stuff, I always think about like The Exorcist, and do you believe in that kind of stuff, in possession and stuff like that?
Yeah, actually I do, and just out of coincidence, in the movie The Exorcist. Do you remember when the young priest dives out the window and goes down the 125 stairs and dies?
Mm-hmm.
That's a real good friend of mine, Chuck Waters, who did The Fall.
Oh.
But
Okay.
But yeah, I do believe in it, because one of the things that you will find that just stuns people, they'll ask me, they say, do you believe in, the evil spirits? I go, yeah, I do. Right. And they said, well, do you believe like in demons? I said, yeah, I do. I said, I've only seen one in 55 years, but yeah, I believe in them. And they said, how can you believe in them? I said, look at them, I say, do you believe in angels? Well, yeah. I said, it's the same story. They're like, oh. Right. So yeah, they're both out there.
Yeah. Well, I've always lived my life that some things have to be believed to be seen.
Yeah. And if something isn't coming to you trying to make a point, you're not the one that needs to make a point with.
Right.
That's simple.
True that.
Okay.
True that.
So that's
And
all the paranormal stuff. And just one last quick question. What about stuff like Loch Ness and Bigfoot and all of that kind of stuff? Do you also believe in that?
Well, the thing about Loch Ness is the very first person who ever had a recording of Loch Ness is actually, I don't know if he's a relative, but that's where the name McCallum came from. And it came from St. Columba, who was the first person to report seeing and actually driving Nessie away from one of his people that was in the water. But that was the very first Loch Ness report, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. As far as Bigfoot, yeah, it's way too many footprints, way too many sightings, to actually not believe it. It's like, say, do you believe in UFOs? You look outside, you see a billion stars and say, yeah, we're it. Bit presumptuous, I think.
Yeah, conceited, actually.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, nobody else out there but us. Yeah, let's call it a day.
Okay.
Kind of hard to believe.
I do have hope.
Yeah,
there is a
it's
chance
hard
I
to
can
believe
find
we're the
a
best thing in the
Renaissance
universe, isn't it?
Right?
Now, what about the mix? Where, so I don't know if you're familiar with the investigation they're doing at Skinwalker Ranch, but there's.
Yeah, very much I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, like the hitchhiker effect that they talk about, where, people that go to the ranch and then, like, when they get home, they start seeing like dark shapes around the house and odd things happening.
Well, that happens in the paranormal a lot as well. That we don't call them hitchhikers, we call them attachments. Mm-hmm. And if you get an attachment, I would suggest, and this isn't to try and raise money for my book or from either of my books, because I give the money that comes in from the books to St. Jude's Hospital. So I'm not trying to make myself rich, right? I'd like everybody to buy it so St. Jude's gets more money. But the last story is about what happened to me in Ireland. And it's hard to read. It was hard to go through. And it was about something that attached to me. And to the point that the Scottish paranormal guys, who are very, very good ghost hunters. Matter of fact, one of them is on the TV show Spook Scotland. And I happen to be a member of that group. That they were actually running in and talking to the lord of the castle at Lep Castle, which is very famous. And they said, how long is it going to take to get an ambulance out here? And they go, why? I said, because we think Rick is dying. And Rick was out in the car and he was positive he was dying. So fortunately, I happened to say something just off the cuff that I think saved me from going under. So and it was from an attachment. And but just to give you a highlight, I felt something hit me, right in the right eye. And I mean, my eyes started watering and it almost knocked me out. And I got a pretty good pain threshold from bouncing off the concrete for 40 years, right? But I staggered backwards and the guys saw me and they came in, they were holding me up and stuff, put me in the car. And they went up and I said, just leave me in the car. Just let me rest, because I was sitting there, nice and quiet and everything else. And while I was sitting there, my vision started to go, right? Started doing this. And I'm like, well, that's not good, right? And then it went like the iris of the camera, which in the old movies means that's the end of the movie.
Right.
And I'm like terrified, right? I'm like, this is it, right? And I can just feel all of a sudden from here down, all my energy go, and I mean gone. Just like, have you ever flushed a toilet in an airplane?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was like. Boom, gone, right? And I'm just laying in the car like this. And I'm going, well, this is it, right? And it was so funny because I wasn't afraid, I wasn't frantic. I just thought, this is it, right? And for some reason I said out loud, I said, I've got to do a lot of things other people never get to do. I've been to a lot of places. I've been pretty much everywhere I wanted to go. So if today's my day, I'm okay with it. And about 2 minutes later, my energy started coming back. My vision started coming back. Now, here's where it really gets interesting. I went in about a half an hour sitting around inside. I felt better. Went ghost hunting. A couple weeks later, one of the guys from Scottish Paranormal calls me. We had been earlier at another place. And he says to me, you'll never guess what I found out. I said, what's that? He goes, the other place, they had a duel. One guy got shot through the right eye and died.
Oh.
Wow.
And I was the one that all of a sudden felt like I got shot in the right eye. And what I actually think happened is this spirit attached to me, trying to show me what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it realized how deep it was going until I said, if today's my day, I'm okay with it. And I think it backed off of me and let me go. But it was,
wow.
It
You're
was
lucky.
scary.
The only thing that ever attached to me was the leech from the local pond.
I had a chubby guy follow me around at the down by the ocean once, but that's pretty much all that. But I did have another time of getting an attachment at the Pioneer Saloon, which made me so sick I almost threw up on the table while I was sitting there. And actually, if you go to Rick McCallum EVPs on YouTube, somebody else put this up, and you can hear what's going on. I'm sitting next to the girls, and I have two K2s in front of me because the tables are round. So the girl that's sitting next to me has no place to put hers, right? Because there's no table part there. So she puts it next to mine. None of the equipment of all these other people is going off, and all 10 lights are going off on the ones in front of me. And the girl that was running the hunt, she says to me, she goes, wow, the spirits really like you. And for like the last couple of minutes, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting so sick. I can't believe it. I felt like I was on fire, right? And I just looked over and you can hear me just kind of go, I don't think they do, right? And you can kind of tell something's wrong with me, right? And I said, yeah, I don't think they do. And later on, when they played the tape back, you can hear these girls' voices say, we do, right? Which was kind of interesting. But I go outside, I'm trying to, clear my head and everything else. And I come back in and I said, you know what, guys, I don't want to ruin your hunt. I said, so I'm just going to take off. It's the first time I've ever done this. I said, but I'm really sick. And I turn around and there's a male voice on this tape. Now, this isn't my tape. Someone else put this up. And they put down that what it's saying is, they got it in text underneath there. It says, turn Rick back. And you see me stop and I turn around and I look back and I say, all right, guys, it's nice meeting you. And I turn around and then you hear the man's voice say, release him. So that's somebody else's evidence. So
wow.
Weird shit out there. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, see, I love that shit. I love that shit.
I invite it, and unfortunately, sometimes it listens.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have had their own, personal experiences too. They may not talk about it, but I know I have. So.
Yeah, mine just tend to border on the extreme.
Well, that's the fun part. Well, in my eyes, anyways.
No, but I've had so many ones that weren't like that were, pay attention to me.
Yeah.
and I've seen full body apparitions. I saw a full body apparition at Cool Ross Palace, 10 minutes from the time I walked in. You know, I mean, it's Norwich Theatre, which was really funny, which is in England. Before we went to the one place that was really haunted, we went downstairs in the basement, and it was an actual theater, you know, like where they do plays and things, not movies. And we went down below, and they had a big pipe that went halfway across the whole bottom, you know, down the basement. And you couldn't go past the pipe because on the other side there was electrical things and all the ropes and things like that. There's about 10 feet of opening in between there. And I'm standing down there with my K2. The other people are behind me. And I look up and it's dark. And I see a man standing 5 feet away from me on the other side where we're not supposed to be. And he's looking down like he's looking at a phone or a K2 or something. So I turned around to say something to Mandy, who had invited me. And she's going, right? So I go, whoa. I turn back around and there's nobody there. And they couldn't have gone anywhere. There's a big metal, you know, piece that runs through the thing. They would have to climb over and over me to get through it. Right. And I turned around and looked at her and she goes, you saw it too, didn't you? And I went, yeah, I saw him. Right. So, I mean, I could have tapped him on the head. He was that close.
Wow.
So, but, you know, but I do it a lot. See, that's what people don't understand. You know, they say, how do you get so many things happen to you? I said, well, I go out all the time looking for it. I said, and they say, yeah, but you always have these great stories. I said, yeah, but I don't write down the stories where I sat and got a cold ass sitting in an empty castle in the middle of the night and nothing happened, because that's not very interesting. Right? I said, I've got chapters and chapters and nothing happening. Right? So, you know, you just got to, you know, ghosts will play with you when they want to. It's that simple.
It's kind of like fish when you go fishing.
Exactly.
You don't always catch something, and the stories aren't always big.
Yeah.
True that.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to call me next time you guys are out on the East Coast, because I mean, I would tag along in a heartbeat.
Well, I'm trying to find more places to go.
You
know, and the problem with the Hollywood Ghost Hunters right now is that when we started the group, we all lived within 30 miles of each other.
Right.
Now we live in 3 different states.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
You know, and like Kane is so freaking busy. You know, if he's not doing a movie, he's doing a convention. And I mean, you know, it's hard to get him out. RA, you know, he needs to take a nap, you know, because he's an older gentleman. Hope he's listening. I love to torture him. RA is 6'5" and 340 pounds. Right?
Oh, boy.
He's a moose, right? And he's very proud of how big he is. But what's so funny is I can turn him into Hulk Hogan like that, right? And it's become a running joke between us, because I'll just walk up to him and I'll go, wow, RA, you're pretty big. What are you, like about 6'2" and about 265? And he'll go, well, let me tell you something right now, brother. He says, I'm 6'5" and 345 pounds of coiled steel and sex appeal. Right? And Caleb, and there you go. You had sex with a banana peel? What? No, that's not what I said. We torture that poor boy. It's only because we know we can outrun him. You know, he moves like a glacier. I'm pretty sure I can outrun that guy even with 5 knee operations. Of course, I'd have incentive having that big gorilla chase you.
Well, true, right? Holy shit! Wow.
Now, you said you are familiar with Skinwalker Ranch. What are your thoughts on that?
Do you know the lineage of Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes.
About Robert Bigelow?
Yep.
Yeah, Robert Bigelow owned that. He was a very wealthy industrialist, a guy that was very much into weapons, right? Things like that. I believe that he got grant money from the United States to help do research there. There's a reason things are happening there. Let's put it that way. Why they keep getting a lot of the same things at the 1.6, gigahertz number. Why they're finding things underground. And I think they're there because somebody put them there for experiments. So,
okay,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Fascinating show.
Yeah. And
now I have to start watching it. Damn you, Leo.
Well, even like Dr. Taylor that they have on there, is Travis Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they do a bunch of Q&As on their insider program. Like they're still investigating like year round. So I'm excited to see what they show this year on the season. But
I watched the opening one last night. That was pretty interesting.
That was.
But yeah, there's a lot of things out there. But I do think with the Bigelow lineage, that has to play a big part.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Bigelow. A lot of stuff was more malicious. You know, when his stories are more malicious. You know, other than what Brian Fugel and his team has really found. So that could be something with it. Maybe they were, you know, I don't know what they were doing, but you know,
I think there's underground structures there.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, do you guys ever watch The Curse of Oak Island?
Yep.
I was telling a guy that I know that had worked on Oak Island. And I said, I already got this thing figured out. And I don't know what's the real hard part about it. And he goes, okay, what did you figure out? I said, okay, you all expect there to be a big treasure there, right? Because somebody burrowed 175 feet down and put, you know, booby traps for anybody going in and all that stuff. I said, okay, that would lead me to believe there's something worthwhile down there. I said, but around the time when this was supposed to have happened, who would have wanted to take their treasure over here to hide it? Right? You know that the Spanish were there at one time, the English were there, the French were there, the Portuguese were there, the Knights Templar were there, right? Now, which one of those did the King of France try and kill them all so they could steal their gold? That was the Templars.
Yep.
Which group actually had a navy? That was the Templars. Okay. None of the other groups, Spain, all those people were superpowers in the time. They didn't have to go across to Nova Scotia to hide their wealth because nobody could take it from them.
Right.
Okay. So it makes sense. The only real group would be the Portuguese because the Portuguese and the Knights Templar were very tight, right? And they had a guy there named Samuel Bull, I believe his name, black gentleman who was a cabbage farmer, and he owned one of the spots. And within a year, or I believe it was, maybe 2 years, he became one of the richest guys in North America. He didn't get it from cabbage farming on, you know, Oak Island. And I told him, I said, you guys are going about this the whole wrong way. He goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? And this guy was pretty high up in hierarchy. And I said, if you were going to put a treasure in there and booby trap it, wouldn't you put a way in for you to get in that nobody knew about? And he goes, yep. Yeah. I said, what if you wanted it back? You're going to swim through all the stuff you just built? No, you're going to have a back door to get in it. And he goes, I said, yeah. Think about it.
It's true.
The only group that makes any sense of being there is the Templars. They found things that relate to the Templars, right? Matter of fact, one of the places that I'm going to ghost hunt when I go back to Scotland here in June is a place called Temple, which is 8 miles from Roslyn Chapel, which was an actual Knights Templar temple. And they named the city Temple because it was there. And that's one of the places that I'm going to be ghost hunting overnight with a guy named Lee Dunn, who's a very famous psychic medium. And another friend of mine, Gregor Stewart, who is one of the heads of Scottish Paranormal. So we're going to go in there and investigate that place. So, yeah,
very cool,
should be fun. But
I mean, holy crap, we killed this whole show. I just realized the time. We got about 5 minutes left. And then we have to let this gentleman go because Leo actually has another show tonight.
I do.
I'm going to tell you a quick story. It has nothing to do with any of that. I just heard this the other day, and I just loved all that. This older guy was driving, and he hit another guy from behind, right? This big, nasty guy gets out, and he grabs the guy and starts shoving him around, saying, you did $10,000 worth of damage to my car, and you're going to pay it in cash so I can get it done, right? And he goes, well, I don't carry that kind of cash on me. And he says, well, you better get it. He says, I'm going to kick your ass, right? And a little old man. And he says, well, let me call my son, right? And the guy goes, well, what does your son do? And he goes, well, he trains dolphins. And he goes, can he get him up with $10,000? He goes, yeah. So he says, call him. So he calls him. And he says, he'll be here in 10 minutes. So guy comes over. He gets out of the car. The big, mean guy comes up to him. And the guy that gets out of the car, his son, beats the hell out of the guy, right? And he turns out, looks at his dad. He goes, Dad, quit telling people I train dolphins. I train seals. Navy SEALs.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So
Right.
I did see a question come in. It was rather long, so I'll let Leo read it, and we'll actually do that, and then
This one?
we'll wrap our questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So Carrie says, my daughter is a paranormal magnet. Where she lives, she attracts things. They will begin to interact with other people in the place as well. They're mostly just look at me actions, throwing things, slamming doors, noises, pulling hair, occasionally talking to us, and the like. She's lost SOs due to this. And any advice beyond her frequent cleansings?
What is SOs?
Significant others, I believe.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That sounds like something that really is trying to connect to her. Okay. It doesn't sound like anything bad. What I would suggest she does, by the way, if you really want to get rid of a spirit, tell it to leave, right? And tell it to leave in no uncertain terms. You just say, listen, I'll give you a for instance. There was this one lady that asked me to come over, and she said she had a real demonic spirit. And when I checked her with the thermal imager, she had a big black spot in her, right? And I was like, okay. So, which I do have those on film, you know. But I told her, said, tell it to get out of you, get away from you, and don't come back, right? And she goes, should I get mad? And I said, yeah. She goes, how mad? I said, pretend you just found your boyfriend and your sister together. And she goes, that mad? And I said, and then some. And she looks at me and she goes, and she was this adorable lady, right? She was, you know, the kind that should have been on a sitcom, you know. And she looks at me and she goes, is it okay if I use my faith? I said, couldn't hurt, right? So the stupidest thing I've ever done was not film her because she was freaking spectacular. She puts her little fists together, throws her arms over her head, and she goes, get out, the power of God commands you. I almost left. She was sincere, right? But I waited like a couple minutes and I put the thermal imager on it and the black spot was gone. So that was really cool. So you can get them to leave, but you just have to make it very apparent to get lost. It doesn't sound like this spirit here is trying to do anything harmful to her, right? It just sounds like some of the significant others just couldn't wrap their head around it. But what I would suggest for her, and your telephone has voice recorders in it. Turn on your voice recorder and talk to it. See if you can find out who it is, and then you can deal with it easier.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Or whatever's haunting, or not haunting her, but whatever's connected to her. Maybe it's a loved one, and these SOs are SOBs.
Could be too. Could be they're driving them away on purpose.
Right. Because I have heard of that before.
Yeah. No, it's people underestimate the power that spirits have. I mean, I've been saved twice from dying by spirits.
Now, do you consider that doing stunts with ghosts?
Well, both times it was my dad coming back. So
Very cool.
Okay.
Very cool.
yeah, so yeah, but
So
spirits will react the way you treat them. And if they're negative spirits, you have to treat them as such. And you just have to get tough on them and say, get out. And you might have to scream at them. You might have to do it over and over again for a week or so, but eventually they'll leave.
Because you're no fun anymore.
Exactly. You're not a victim.
right.
Bullies don't pick on tough people.
Right.
Right.
Very
So
true.
you start toughening up a little bit and tell them, get out of my house.
Right. So go ahead and Rick, why don't you pitch your two books? Tell our viewers and listeners the names of the books. I know it's in the show notes up above and down below, but just give them a quick rundown and
Okay.
they're
They're both on Amazon. They deal with a lot of the ghost hunts that I've been to and the kind of paranormal things that have happened through my life in both books. The first one won the Paranormal Book of the Year award. I wanted to win the second year too, but I'm just kind of a greedy pig. But the first one's called Ghosts Believe in Me. It's available on Amazon. And the next one is called The Spirits Are Out There and They're Waiting for You. And it's also on Amazon. And like I say, the money that I get from the books on Amazon, I donate to St. Jude's Hospital. So if you want something that's pretty cool to read, at least from what people tell me, and make a little money for St. Jude's.
Mhm.
Cool.
Sounds
Very
good.
cool. Very cool. So
Great stories. I would love to read that stuff.
any last questions from either of you?
No, I'm good. I know Leo always has his closing question.
Yeah.
All right. So Leo, fire away.
Well, first I want to say I totally agree with you on the cabbage farmer. I thought the same thing. Like, where did he come up with all that money? He must have found something.
It's cabbage.
Yeah, but
He was the only one on the island.
yeah, and
Like
The greens.
So besides ghost hunting, writing, and doing stunts, on your off time, is there something that you dork out about? Like, do you study anything, on your own? Do you like play video games? What do you do?
No, I don't play video games, but I am totally obsessed with the Knights Templar.
Nice.
And Balgony Castle has such a strong influence of the Knights Templar. I just love going to that place. I actually became friends with the laird of the castle, who just passed away a couple months ago. By the way, sir, Ben, you're gonna need a Slurpee pretty soon. Just saying, it's over next to the ho-hos and the Twinkies, so you can't miss it.
Right, I'll need one of those too.
Yeah, but the Knights Templar fascinate me. They absolutely fascinate me. And I've been to many places that people, that are Templar places.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
By the way, you do know that's why Friday the 13th is considered bad luck? Was because of the Knights Templar? The King of France wanted... The Knights Templar were the richest organization in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually were banking. And they were by far the richest. And they loaned a great deal of money to the King of France. King of France didn't want to pay it back, right? So he had them all, on Friday the 13th, drug in as heretics to the religion. They took Graham de Malay, who was the Grand Master, and burned him at the stake. And they forced all the other guys through torture to say that they were doing all these weird rituals and stuff like that. Well, the weird thing about the Knights Templar, when they went to go take all the treasure that they had in all these holding places, it was all gone. When they went to see the navy that they had, the ships were gone. So here was like this super powerful thing. Everything vanished.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
They did go to Portugal. That I know for sure, because they built temples in Portugal and stuff like that. And on Oak Island, they also have a lot of the roadways there are the same as the Portuguese roadways. So, yeah, I think that's the case right there. Samuel Ball found all this stuff. You're not going to find anything but remnants. And it's a great story. But I think that's probably what happened. Look for the freaking back door.
Yep.
Right.
Let me in there for an hour. I'll find a freaking thing.
Well, they're going to say there's something there because they need to do another, 12 seasons of the show.
I think this may be the end of the season.
Really?
Yeah, the island's gonna sink.
The
They
last
dug too deep.
The last I saw, they were doing like these 12-foot drills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going down the garden shaft.
Yeah.
And actually, if you see that thing where the bubble, they call it, the 20-foot bubble, has the tunnel going underneath into the garden shaft.
Yep.
You go on the other side of the garden shaft and look over back that way. That's where your tunnel is going to be to actually get in and take the stuff out. And I have the feeling that the stuff that you might go over and find out that the stuff was on Samuel Ball's land, the back door. So didn't get to be one of the richest men in North America from cabbages.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
And the fact is, he was a black man back then, and they didn't make a lot of money doing anything back then, So
yeah,
tough times, and he comes out, just shining. So good for him.
Well, he was also a wasn't he like a freed slave that he went from slavery to like millionaire?
Yeah, he's the one. He actually lived on Oak Island,
yep.
And all of a sudden he went from being a cabbage farmer to being super wealthy. I wonder where.
Yeah.
You're on an island. Everybody says there's treasure. You're the only guy there, and all of a sudden you're rich. Duh. This isn't like Columbo, you know. Oh, let me tell you, this is one more question. You know, Samuel Ball, backdoor. They'll find it. End of show.
Right. And on that note, Leo.
Yeah, well, we'll wrap things up. Absolutely love it. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. You know me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got a ton of shows on the network. There's a lot of awesome people doing a lot of awesome stuff. Head on over to thedorkening.com. You can learn more there. And we're going to be doing another live show in about 45 minutes, actually a little less than that. So, stay tuned. We'll be live again. And Rick, where do you like people interacting with you on the social medias?
On Facebook. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, just go to Rick McCallum or Hollywood Ghost Hunters. And by the way, if you run over to the 7-Eleven near you guys right now in the next 30 minutes, I bet you find Ben over there by the Twinkies.
Jeffrey.
I know Ben well enough. He goes for the chocolate ho-hos and stuff. Not that much of a Twinkie fan, I don't think.
Great.
Unless they're out of ho-hos.
I'm gonna have shipments of friggin' chocolate ho-hos showing up at my door now.
Well, they do have chocolate covered Twinkies, so maybe you could eat one of
Ooh,
those.
yeah, those are yummy too.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Ben,
anyway,
you're bitching about people sending you chocolate covered ho-hos. I can't talk to you anymore. That's it.
Well, no, I was gonna share them. It's all good. I'll share them with everybody. It's good. Why are you going with me?
Here's my address. Tillamook mudslide ice cream, please.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So on that note, thank you, Rick. Awesome.
You're welcome.
It's been a ball chatting with you. And as far as us, well, go to stilltoken.com. But if you want to see us, we will be in Berwick, Maine tomorrow at Trican Alternatives doing a book signing from about 9 to 3, somewhere around there. And then we head from Maine to Western Mass out to Hadley for the Grass is Greener event for Friday and Saturday. I believe we're going to run into a whole shit ton of people that we haven't seen in a little while out there as well. So
just look for the car that has smoke coming out the windows as it drives in.
I think that'll be a lot of them, actually.
It'll be all of them. We might be the only one that's not. But yeah, like Jeff said, stilltoking.com. You can find out everything about us, from the comic book to the TV series to the animation to this show. You can also head over to Red Coral Universe OTT, new streaming platform. They're carrying all our stuff there as well. Keep your eyes peeled. We got some big stuff happening. Product release for us tomorrow. We got the novel coming out in the next couple months. Yeah, there's just a lot going on. But we want to definitely take the time to thank Rick for coming out and hanging out with us, telling us all his kick-ass stories. Check the show notes up above or down below. Go buy his book. It's for a great cause, man. Donate to St. Jude's. You know, that's a huge thing. And to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. We're out of here.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Peace. Thanks, Rick.
Rick, hang tight.
Oh, yeah.
Hang tight.
Hang tight.